Galaxy Bazaar and IPM.
The story behind Galaxy Bazaar is very, very interesting. We started from 8,000 rupees, and across this 14 years, we managed to raise 1.5 crores of rupees.
By the students.
By the students, for the students. Every single rupee donated for the cause of education. If we have 100 such schools, where Galaxy Bazaar is happening, believe me, we will be taking care of all the children across the country.
IPM. Could you share a little glimpse of that?
They have to look for a problem and they have to come up with not an idea, real product to solve that problem. Just like the format of the Shark Tank, they'll be presenting their product in front of the panel of judges. New Education Policy 2020. This education policy is actually changing the educational scenario totally. New education policy focuses on different kind of assessment, which is not only exam based.
What's your views on AI in education?
AI is going to be the major disruptor in the field of education. Building relationships, understanding emotions is something that AI will not be able to handle. The role of teacher now changes from the content provider to the emotions provider.
Today on Voices of Impact, we have a futuristic educator, a business teacher for 20 plus years. Her work has been recognized with many awards including Forbes, Google, Microsoft, and even UNESCO. Most of us learn business after school or after finishing the college, but she has been teaching business and entrepreneurship to school kids. Please allow me to welcome someone who is known to break stereotypes, Ms. Bijal Damani on Voices of Impact. Welcome, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for being here, ma'am. We were waiting for this episode. How are you?
I'm doing good. Excited to be here.
So what you're doing lately?
I have just left school. I've been a school classroom teacher for almost 24 years. Just last December, I resigned from the school and I'm just in the transition phase to establish my own Sparkles 24 Skills Academy.
Could you tell us a little bit more about that startup? What does that resonate with?
Okay. Now, suppose, if you are looking at the future, the way life works, the way job scenario works, it's very different from what it was used to be. Now, there is a lot of, there is gap between what is happening in schools and colleges and what the industry requires. So, Sparkles 24 will be working to simply fill that gap, wherein I will be focusing not on academics because that is something that is happening in schools and colleges, but my focus will be purely on teaching skills to the students, which will simply help them, be employable or, start with their own businesses. So all the skills that are needed to be successful in the future is something that I will be taking care of.
Does that mean that you're focusing more on a soft skill part?
Absolutely. It is, you can call it life skills, you can call it soft skills, but these are the skills which is a very changing scenario. These are the 21st century skills which, one person needs to have in order to succeed in life. But these are the things which are not taught anywhere. So my focus will be through projects, through experiences. I would love to, teach and give these skills to the students who are going out to the college or those who are applying for the jobs or those who are planning to start their own business in the future.
So is this basically for the students going in the schools as of now, or you're also planning to deal with also the students which are in the colleges?
Okay, I'm planning to deal with, starting from grade 5 till the college students. Because, not only college students, many a times, even the ones who are already in the job, even they need the upskilling. The skills that help them end up with that job are becoming outdated. So even they need upscaling. So this is something that anybody who wants any kind of skill upgradation, this particular center will be helping them do that.
That's interesting, and I guess it's really a need between those educational gaps, because today's curriculum that particularly focuses on the curriculum that has been before independence, especially.
Yes.
It has not been really updated, that's what I feel. And how do you relate with the current curriculum? Do you think it needs upgradation?
Okay. Now, once again, that upgradation has already been introduced by the government. It is in the form of New Education Policy 2020. And this year, the academic year 24-25 is when we will start implementing this new education policy. So this education policy is actually changing the educational scenario totally. Up till now, we were simply focused on, the rote learning. Like, we were having the education which was exam-based. The kids were assessed only on the basis of the 3-year exam that you're writing at the end of the year. And you are getting the marks out of it. And that is how we label the children as, somebody who is intelligent and somebody who is not. The new education policy is simply changing that all. New education policy focuses on skill development, on practical learning, on the different kind of assessment, which is not only exam-based. So, that kind of scenario is already there. We already have that particular new education policy in our hand. But the implementation is where, the success of that particular policy depends on the implementation. And it is very difficult. I can see that because we are shifting from the mentality of rote learning to, where the whole child, the holistic approach towards the child. We are not only looking at whether the child knows that academic portion or not, but we are looking at what the child brings in. The child, what are the characteristics of that child, the value system, what skills that particular child has. So a holistic approach towards education is already there, but implementation will start from this year onwards.
Do you think the new format in NEP, new educational policy that has been introduced, instead of 10+2, they're planning towards 5+3+3+4?
Yes, exactly.
How is that different?
Okay, it is different in the sense that, we are, for point number 1, we are having the introduction of before that education, 3 years of pre-primary, which are already there, that is given. So what they have done is, instead of having one entire 10-year, looking at that as one unit, they have simply divided it into parts, that these are the years which are foundational, then we are having the middle years, then we are having the higher secondary, and so on, so forth. So it will simply help us focus better onto what is required at that particular level, and simply, give the skills which are meant for that, category of students. So it will definitely have instead of just 10+2, like grade 1 to 10, and then 2, we are simply dividing them into the primary and the pre-primary, then primary, foundational, middle school, so on, so forth.
Does this new educational policy, as you said, focuses on a holistic approach?
Absolutely.
Does it also change the schools that doesn't have, let's say, even a playground? Because we had Mr. Prakash Bhatt on the show,
right,
the second episode. Right. What he said is the sports is not only for the career.
Right.
It's also meant for the kids to play, and there should be sports ground in the school, which we definitely don't have in, I guess, 75% of the school in India.
Right.
How does India deal with this problem?
Okay. Now, see, once again, the government has already taken care of this. School ground is mandatory for all the schools. Having a school ground is mandatory for all the schools. Now, the schools which are not having these facilities, because there are so many schools which do not have the space where, it's just a building, nothing else. So they will have to simply look for a solution where they can hire the ground, and they will have to give number of hours which are needed, to all the students so far as the physical activities are concerned. So when I say it is a holistic approach, that is what I mean. They have already taken care of everything. The physical well-being, the mental well-being, the spiritual well-being, and the academic well-being of children. So everything is there. But once again, as I said, implementation is something that will actually, pose lot of issues or lot of, hurdles. Because schools who do not have this, they will have to now think about that what they will be doing about the physical well-being part of children. So it is going to come for all the schools, whether they like it or whether they are ready for it or not.
When we talk about developing, we have developed certainly in the part of technology, in the part of research, in all the aspects. But when it comes to the education, what I feel is in the ancient India, how we used to learn
Right,
in the universities of Takshashila and Nalanda,
right,
even the student to teacher ratio, if you see, was
Right.
very less. I
right.
guess we are, rather than developing, we are degrading on how to teach the students.
Absolutely. Now, once again, so far as the ancient Indian education system was concerned, we were already using this approach of holistic development. We were already there. It is just of late, I think this is more in relation with the political requirement as well, that with the Britishers coming in, they wanted more of the people who are taking the orders rather than thinking creatively or thinking critically. They never wanted the individuals. They wanted people who will simply fill the posts or the gaps that are there in their administration. And that is why our education system was shifted to rote learning, where you are not thinking, you are simply taking the orders and doing what is being told to you. Ancient India, that was not the case, because that is where holistic development was happening, wherein right from academic requirements to, as I said, the spiritual requirements, intellectual requirements, everything was taken care of by the guru, and the child will stay with the same guru for almost 12 to 15 years, and that is how the entire development of the child was on the hand of the teacher. And that is why the teacher can do the wonders, in the sense that what has been done and what needs to be done over a period of time. And depending on the requirement of the child, let's say if the child is going to be the king, the future king, that particular person was developed that way, because the king need to have certain qualities, and those qualities were given to that child under the leadership of the guru. So we had a fantastic system in place, and NEP is trying to bring that back in whatever form. Holistically, that is not possible, that we will have the entire system back. But NEP is definitely trying to bring a little bit of, let's say, even 50% of that particular thing has to be brought back into our education system for us to thrive.
That focuses on the students, this new policy. But
Right.
if we look at the other side of the coin and we
Right.
talk about the teachers
Right.
and compare it to the ancient India, as you said and mentioned about the gurus, they used to focus on the student development, their overall development. Rather, more of the teachers and the education system more is commercialized.
Right.
What's your take on this?
Absolutely. Now, see, one thing is, so far as the teachers are concerned, there are two things I would like to bring to your notice. Everybody wants good teachers for their children. But you ask any class of students that, when you are talking about career choices, how many of them would like to become teachers? So there are very few people who would like to be teachers, for the simple reason, it is not a lucrative profession. If you're a simple school teacher, it's not a lucrative profession. I would rather be a doctor, I would rather be an engineer, I would rather be something else. So point number one, that is something that we will have to look into, that, we have the system where we can attract the talented people. The talented people should love to become teachers. That is point number one. And that is what is happening in Finland. One of the best educational systems in the world. That is where, somebody who is intelligent, their first choice is to become teacher. If you cannot become the teacher, then you are opting for other profession. In our case, it's inverse. If I cannot be anything else, I can be a teacher.
Yes.
Right? That's the sad reality of, what you can say, our system. Right? Okay. Point number two, majority of our teachers are result driven. Because, that is what community expects. That is what parents expect. That, all I want is my child to simply score certain marks, to kind of be prepared for the competitive exams. And if anything that is there on the result card, if whatever that you are doing, it's reflecting on the result card, then, you are a good teacher. Otherwise, you are not. But I think that is something that has to go, because you when we are talking about life, academic success is just one part of it. There are so many other aspects of it. We know that very well. Every other day, we simply see that somebody who is in grade 12, either that person is in depression or that person, commits suicide. Why is that? 12th standard result is not the be-all and end-all of life. There is so much to life that you can do. If you have failed, it's okay. Give it another try, or, do something else. Find your own ikigai, as you know that whatever that you're good with, you do it. It's okay. But society expects that, because up till now, our education system was like that. Our education system is simple. There is syllabus. You master that syllabus. You memorize that syllabus. There is 3-hour exam. You just, go and write. Whatever that you score, your life depends on that. And all the schools and all the teachers, their sole focus is how can we prepare students for those exams. So nothing wrong, because, that is the requirement of the community. That is what we have created, because the education system is like that. But now if the education system changes, wherein the focus is more on skills, the focus is more on experiences, so automatically the focus on pure academics and memorization and rote learning will go. That is what NEP is trying to do.
You talked about the rote learning and
Right.
the students who are scholars and yet they are in the depression after
Right.
the standard of 12th
Right.
or whatever.
Right.
That's the observation that I do have observed certain things, that the students who are skillful in education, they're
Right.
good at studies, but
Right.
after finishing the school, they
Right.
come towards the college, they see a broader aspect of life
Right.
and they see that they are failing in the other aspect, and then this depression kicks in.
Absolutely.
Because until then, I believe what they feel is they are the champion,
Absolutely.
and suddenly they're into the main world, and then they realize that they're lacking a lot of other qualities.
Because in real world, the parameter of success changes. In the school, the parameter of success is what you are getting, what grade you are getting, or how many marks you are getting in the test. And, to score well in that particular category, all you need is good memory. You need to understand that concept. Sometimes they do not even understand, but they memorize. So if you have good memory, but good memory is just one aspect. You need to be good at communication. You need to be good at creativity, critical thinking, technology, so many aspects. You need, and the soft skills as well. Now, once you are outside the school or colleges, you just realize that, I'm just good at this aspect, and I'm the champion, and there are expectations from me that I will succeed everywhere. And then when I step out and then I see that life requires so much more than just mugging up, certain pages. You simply realize that I have wasted my time doing that, even though I was successful there. But, I do not have many qualities which life requires. And, I was used to have so many projects and everything. And I have seen that when you are doing projects, when you are doing certain activities, the ones who are the scorers, the ones who are the leaders or the toppers, when you are doing that project, they realize this fact that, whatever that is required in order to finish that project, they are not able to do it, because all they know is read, memorize, nothing beyond that. So I believe, that when you have projects like this, they simply get to know about this at the school level. That realization comes that only memorization will not help. We need to have other things as well to develop confidence, to, have good communication skills, to have the critical thinking, to handle the data well. All these things is something that is needed. And the earlier they realize it, the better.
Because they have more time to develop themselves.
Exactly. And that is what Sparkle's 24 Skills Academy planned to do, to give them that exposure, right from the, beginning, in the sense, school level, so that, before they actually go into the market or, set in for the life, they have done this. Many a times students have not presented, and all of a sudden, they are going to the college and there are presentations. There are so many research opportunities that are available, but, they have never done that. And that is why they let go of those opportunities. So my focus is plainly expose them to the things which are connected to real life, so that when they go out, it doesn't come as a rude shock. In fact, they're riding the wave.
You are recognized for introducing business to these students, school kids.
Right.
So what is the overview of this? How do you do this?
You mean the Galaxy Bazaar?
Not the Galaxy Bazaar,
Okay.
in the classroom.
Okay.
We'll talk about your projects as well.
Right.
But what you change in the normal teaching pattern in the classroom?
Right. Okay. See, point number one, when I started teaching commerce, as in ICSE, I just came to know this, that, see, science has practicals. Commerce does not have any practicals, even though commerce is the most practical subject. So what I started doing is, in my classroom, first thing is individualized learning. What happens is that, in our classroom, we are so used to have the teacher stands in front of the classroom, and everybody, whether I have 30 children or whether I have, let's say, 50 children, everybody is studying the same thing on the same day. So if I say chapter 2, page 25, paragraph 5, so we know that it is in synchrony. All the 30 kids are simply doing that. But we know that very well that, the children, that's what they say, that all kids learn, but not on the same day and not in the same way. All of us have different ways in which, we learn, right? So what I did was that in my classroom, all the children were following their own individualized learning plans. So if you are fast and if you are able to learn one chapter, you will simply, you finish that and move on to chapter 2. You don't have to wait for the entire class to finish that. Somebody who is slow may take, 3 times more, probably 3 more days to finish that same chapter. Take your time. Don't rush. You don't have to rush because, one person has finished that chapter. So in my class, I was used to have all the students at different levels. And I will be interacting with each one of them. They will be interacting with one another. There will be a lot of peer learning, right? And that is how, the classes will go on. Somebody might be working on their e-portfolios. Somebody might be might be taking some online course. Somebody might have finished. I had one student who had finished her 12th standard commerce syllabus within 4 months, first 4 months. And then she simply focused on developing her portfolio because she wanted to go to Canada, for her undergrad course. So she simply took 8 months doing that, finished the syllabus within 4 months. Makes sense. I'm good with that. If you can do that, why waste 12 months? Why stretch it? You do what matters to you. So it is more like, whatever that you're doing, there has to be purpose. Give them that purpose behind that, and after that, it is on a auto mode. That entire class is on auto mode. People are doing things individually, with teachers, with one another, and they are growing. They are simply growing together.
To implement this scenario,
Right.
what I believe is the first part is to have realization for the teachers, what their student needs. But the most important part, second thing, is the motive of the school. How they direct their teachers to do that. Because I feel a lot of teachers also want to make change to the education system
Absolutely.
or the way they want to teach their students.
Right,
But the problem is the motive of the school.
right,
How they have been given a blueprint
right,
to finish a certain course, a certain time,
Right.
or to reach a certain result from the students.
right, right. Now, suppose, when we are talking about education, there are 4 stakeholders who have to think on the same line for this to happen. One is teacher. Second one is the school administrator, the school administration itself. The third one is parents. Otherwise parents will also have the problems that, how you are not teaching when you're doing this, right? And the fourth one is the child himself. So, the student. When all 4 stakeholders understand that, what we are doing, why we are doing, and how it will be beneficial, right? So if all 4 can, they are on the same page, only then something like this happens. Suppose the school administrator thinks that, no, I want everybody to kind of, finish this syllabus within this time. And you have that blueprint that, okay, in this month you have to have, let's say, four chapters done, or then there are exams, because this changes everything. Now you cannot even have assessment, a common assessment. There will be an individual assessment, that you take the assessment when you finish that chapter. So that is, once again, the teacher will have to think about it as well, in the sense how you will go about, the parents as well, the school administration as well. But as I said that, we have lots of tools which we can use now that AI is coming. We can use these tools and we can automate things so that, teachers don't have to do the same. You don't have to set the paper again and again and again. We
Right.
can simply have the automated process where even the teacher is not aware that what the question paper will be. And that question paper is generated from the, what you can say, we have the list of questions,
Yes.
and randomly that question paper is generated.
Wow.
So that is possible.
Ma'am, you also did Galaxy Bazaar and IPM when you were in the school. Can you explain us a little bit about the Galaxy Bazaar? Because it's a brand now. It's no more an innovative project. It's a brand now.
Right, right. And now, see, Galaxy Bazaar, the story behind Galaxy Bazaar, starting off Galaxy Bazaar is very, very interesting. See, first of all, I'll just tell you what Galaxy Bazaar is. Galaxy Bazaar is just one project which we were used to do before Diwali. It was something that was done by the commerce students. Later on, the humanities students also joined it. It was done by students of SN Kansagra School, Rajkot, right? Now, the story behind Galaxy Bazaar is very, very interesting, that, how it came into being. I was simply, deployed as a commerce teacher for grade 10F. I was overjoyed, when I was given this assignment. But when I joined in, I simply got to know that, there were a couple of teachers who resigned because of this particular batch.
Okay.
All right. So, and it was expected that I'll be the third one to go, right? My head will roll as well. But when I was given this particular assignment, I was their commerce teacher and I was their advisory class teacher as well. When I started teaching them, I simply got to know one thing, that there is nothing wrong with these children. They are intelligent. They are very, very intelligent. But the reason behind disruption is we are not teaching them the way it should have been taught. Because, these are the kids with lot of energy, and we are just making them sit inside the four walls of the classroom and teaching them how to do business. Now, that is what is leading to some kind of, the disruption in the classroom. So, initially, while, teaching them, I was trying to understand them, that what are their requirements, how the things are happening. They are very, one thing was very, very good was they were, very thick friends. All 28 of them were very, very, they had a very good bonding. And any kind of classroom disruption happening, nobody will confess anything. They are like, they will simply say, we are, if we will swim together, we'll sink together, that kind of friendship. So it was good, when we know, I'm looking at this as a very, very positive aspect, that, it's good that they have that bonding. Now, one time when I was teaching them commerce, I just simply said this to them, that you don't like commerce, like, you don't like this kind of teaching. How about setting up a bazaar for a couple of days where we source the goods from the market and then we sell it? And believe me, the one who was a backbencher, they jumped and simply, they were on the front bench. Let's do it, ma'am. How will we do it? Where will we go? That enthusiasm, which I had not seen when I was teaching, I could see it when, I simply proposed this particular project. And of course, we tried to, we simply sat together and we were a team. It's not that, I'm a teacher to them or anything. We were a team and we simply decided that, how do we want to go about, had our business plan and everything. We approached the school. And this was different, right? Something that you have already mentioned earlier, that when you are trying to do something different, something innovative, when you are breaking the barriers, you will face problems. So these are the children who are in 10th standard, and being in board class, of course, everybody thought that this is wastage of time. But somehow, we managed to get the permissions and everything. And on year one, with 28 children and myself, and there were 4 rooms, we established our bazaar. We called it Big Business Bank.
Wow. Which year was this?
This was the year 2005.
2005. Wow.
Right. This was 2005. And we established this bazaar, and it was prior to Diwali. So we had everything, related to Diwali, right from dry fruits to T-shirts to clothes to rangolis to diyas. We kept everything that was representing the festivities. Best part, we did our accounting. Now, the thing is, see, whenever you are thinking of a project, there has to be an end in mind. When establishing Galaxy Bazaar, it's not the money as the end in mind, that, you earn profits. There could be losses as well. But what matters is the process. What are you learning?
There's a purpose to
Yes.
teach the student, but there is also a cause behind it.
Exactly. So there is a purpose and there is a cause. And that is why we know that very well, that even though there are losses, it doesn't matter. But point number 1, you are learning everything that is academically needed. You are learning marketing, you are learning psychology, you are learning the language, you are learning how to deal with people, you are learning accountancy, you are learning mathematics, you are learning psychology. You are learning economics, setting up price and everything. Soft skills are there as well, because you have to, be there, like, the teamwork, coordination, cooperation, kind of, debating and dealing with pricing and everything. So it is like, it's not a random project, it is something that was created with the end in mind. Now, at the end of this particular project, we had a good time, and we had earned 8,000 rupees. Now, what to do with this profit? So, once again, we sat together and we simply decided that let's everybody write down that, how we can spend this money. And this being teenagers, these are all 15, 16 years old. Obviously, the choices were, let's party. Let's kind of, go and have some nice coffee or pizza or chocolates or anything like that. I simply said, from my part, I have simply written that, how about donating this money? We had one government school right next to our school. How about visiting them and donating this money? Now, initially, they really thought that, why should we be doing that? It's our hard-earned money. We should be simply blowing that up. But we visited that school, we talked to the principal, and we simply decided on donating this money to buy the stationery supplies for that school. Now, when they had seen the smiles on, the children who were getting their full year supply out of this, when, some of the teachers were happy with the blackboard, which are being installed.
The unexpected satisfaction.
Absolutely. They were exposed to that particular feeling that, the real happiness is when you give happiness to others. When you let go of what you think is yours, hard-earned money, right? And believe me, we had, so it was a teaching moment as well for them. For me, it was like the ethics of the business, the CSR part of the business. Those seeds were sown at that particular point in time, because these are the ones who are going to be the business leaders of tomorrow, these children. And I'm so happy to see that, that they are understanding the value of money. They are understanding that, the happiness which is there when you share, when you give. So these are all the learning lessons, apart from just academics, academics and skills. These are the experiences which will go a long way. And we were so happy. And what happened was that, these children, they were in 10th standard. They appeared for their board exams. Another thing which I noticed was that when we did this, it changed their perspective towards academics as well. The kids who were failing initially, they started doing very well academically. So there was something that was blocking them. Those blockages were removed because of this experience. This was 10th standard. They appeared for the board exams. They got, passed with the flying colors. They moved to 11th standard, and I was still in 10th standard. So nothing happened in the year 2006. Because I thought that this was just one time project for these children, and these children have moved on. It comes that the best part about it is when these children were in 11th standard, the ones which were having behavioral issues in 11th standard, majority of them were there in the prefect council.
Wow.
So you can simply say that it is beneficial. It is beneficial academically. It is beneficial so far as their leadership qualities are concerned. It is helping them. This project is actually helping the children. These children came into 12th standard. Once again, the board year for them. And to my surprise, I was approached by the parents, couple of parents, simply saying, why don't you do that activity again? Because we can see the changes in these children.
Wow. I guess that behavioral change, what caused is, there's a beautiful quote that says, what you remember is not what you are told, but how a specific person made you feel. And what you made feel to these students, they remembered and changed their behavior.
Absolutely. So what was happening with these children was they found the way in which they can learn. It was just a discovery for them. It was a discovery for me. And that is why it was getting me all the results which we were not able to get earlier. So absolutely, these are the children who changed their behavior and everything. Now, after that, when these children came into grade 12, once again a board year, right? So for me, it was like it's done. It was a one-time thing, done with these children, and that is it. But then a couple of parents approached me and simply requested that why don't you continue with this particular project with students, because they have seen that effect on them over a period of time. And it was a eureka moment for me. It's like, I never wanted to continue it. It was a one-time thing for me. And from that year onwards, 2007 onwards, we continued with Galaxy Bazaar. And, we grew with Galaxy Bazaar. I grew with Galaxy Bazaar. Every time, with every batch, it was a different thing. We will be doing everything, and every batch will bring something new. They will simply say, okay, this is what we want to introduce. This is how we can do it. So we continued to change, to innovate, to grow, to scale over a period of time. And, we ran Galaxy Bazaar for almost 14 years now.
Wow.
Last Galaxy Bazaar was in 2019. And unfortunately, after Corona, we had
It
this
affected
lockdown.
you.
Yes, because of lockdown and all, we discontinued with this particular project. And the best part about it is everything remained the same. In year one, we had decided that whatever that we are earning, we will be donating it, we'll be using it, to help others with education. So that was the purpose that was decided in year one, and it continued till the end.
So this sense of purpose that you brought into the students, how was it injected into you?
Simple thing. See, as I said that it is always one teacher, who is influencing you. And for me, the main influence was my principal, Usha Benjani, because she was not a traditional teacher. She was used to teach us Gujarati.
So this means when you were studying as a kid.
When I was a student,
Right.
yes. So when I was a student, and even though she was our principal, she was our Gujarati teacher as well in our grade 10th. She would be teaching us Gujarati. And believe me, many of the things or my belief system about education came from her, because she was the one who was used to let me be, in the classroom. It's like, she will be teaching a lot of Gujarati poems and poetries and prose and everything. And believe me, I will not be paying attention to that. I'll be sitting at the back of the classroom, sitting or staring outside. And she will not correct me, or, she will not scold me for that. Simple reason, I was creating. During the Gujarati classes, I'll be writing ghazals. I'll be writing, different kind of forms of poetry. I'll be writing haikus. And once the class is over, I'll go to her that, ma'am, in Gujarati, this is what I have written in this class. And she will be guiding me with that. with the grammar part. So that was my learning, which was very, very, it's not very, what you can say, a structured learning as we see. But, she would let me be. She'll simply come to me and say that, what have you written today? Let's
That might
evaluate.
not be structured, but that is surely the most impactful learning which you
Absolutely.
also continued with your students. So that's
Absolutely.
one teacher affecting another who became a teacher and affecting thousands now.
Absolutely. See, so that is what is happening.
The
The
chain
way
reaction.
you have been touched, absolutely you will pass it forward. You will definitely pass it forward. And I know this because I enjoyed writing poetry in Gujarati, and she would let me be. She said, it's fine. It's a creative task. You do it. You don't have to listen to me. You will appear for exams later on. It's okay.
Mhm.
But you do this. And she encouraged me with this talent of mine.
Wow.
And I think that is what is missing in most of the classes. We don't see what is there in the child and simply focus on what is not.
Mhm.
And that is what is creating, the tension.
Yes.
Yeah.
Coming back to the Galaxy Bazaar,
Right.
do you have some, or can you mention some iconic projects that student came up with which still touches your heart?
Okay. And now, so far as Galaxy Bazaar was concerned, it's not an individual project. Like, it is something where all of us are into this together. But what we are adding to it, like, over here, we have to think about different ways in which we can simply take care of our own expenses. So how do we generate the revenue and take care of all our expenses? So it is not an individual, individual students, but it is always the group of students. We will sit together and decide on what we should be doing in Bazaar. So over a period of time, we brought about a lot of innovation. So far as what you can say, the canopies are concerned, the food zone is concerned. We tried to bring different food, like we introduced Mexican and Mediterranean. Certain foods which are not very what you can say, liked, or which people are not exposed to. We will be bringing that. We will be bringing lot of choices so far as game zone is concerned.
Is all managed by students only or by
Absolutely.
faculties?
No faculty is involved. So I am involved with the students, of course, as just the guiding light, and everything else is done by the students.
So having different committees there.
Yes, we will have the hierarchy. Yeah, so we will have the core committee which will be working directly with me, and this core committee will be working with different departments. So there is total hierarchy. We are using that metric structure wherein everybody is, connecting vertically as well as horizontally.
What kind of committees were there?
We will have, let's say, suppose the media committee will be taking care of all the publicity and media. Another one will be marketing committee. So, when we are going out and presenting and everything, so marketing material and everything will be prepared by them. Sponsorship committee will be taking care of all the sponsorship. There is venue management, which will be taking care of the venue. Then there is customer care, in the sense, we will have the people who are coming, and if they have any problems or anything, so these are the people who will be taking care of all that. So, there are different committees that are there, different departments that are there. And we have somebody who is heading that department. And, there are people who are absolutely, working with them.
subcommittees.
Yes, working with that particular
And
person.
this everything done by, not to forget, the 15-year-old students.
Absolutely. And you will be amazed, at the progress of the bazaar. As I said that, we started with 8,000 rupee as the profit. Even though I'm not considering profit as the parameter of success, but we started from 8,000 rupees, and across this 14 years, we managed to raise 1.5 crores of rupees
Wow.
with every single rupee donated for the cause of education.
By the students.
By the students, for the students.
1.5 crore.
Right. So that is
So-
the power. That is the power of, just think about it. This is something that is one teacher and her students, or one school that is doing. Just think about it. If we have 100 such schools, where Galaxy Bazaar is happening, believe me, we will be taking care of all the children across the country.
The problem, I guess, is while I support this and should feel that a lot of schools must be teaching this business to their students, especially for the next 10 years when we are looking at the rise of India.
Right.
We want a lot of entrepreneurs with a lot of startups.
Absolutely.
You have to start with the basics. If your school is teaching something before independence, that's not going to help you to build India for the next 10 years.
Absolutely.
But what I see as a barrier is not a lot of schools allow this. How do you reach to these schools, or at least motivate them to start this in their own school? Because
Okay.
that's not how they work. There is a set blueprint,
Right.
and that's how they go. That's it.
Right. See, whatever that you said is very correct, because this requires a different mindset from the school. That is point one. Not only school, but parents as well. Point number two, it requires a lot of investment in form of time, because students will be simply spending lot of time simply organizing this bazaar, going out and meeting people, going out and kind of pitching their whatever sponsorships and everything. So this requires a lot of support from parents, from school administration, and from students themselves. Now, what is happening right now is, majority of the schools, as I said, that, they are dealing only with academics. So this can come as an after-school activity. Those who are interested can actually sign up for projects like this and can spend, let's say, 2 to 3 hours daily on this in order to be part of, this kind of activities or projects. So that is required. If you are not ready to give time, nothing can happen.
There is also another project that you innovated, which is IPM.
Right.
Could you share a little glimpse of that? Because that is, I guess, a different project from this, but with a
Right.
similar business or entrepreneurial aspect.
Absolutely. Now, see, once again, the purpose behind IPM, which is Innovative Product and Marketing Competition, the purpose behind that, or the objective behind that, was very simple. Our students, like when we are teaching them something, it is always compartmentalized knowledge. So if you are a commerce student, I will simply be teaching you economics, accountancy, business studies, etc., etc. I will never expose you to engineering aspect, the product designing aspect. There are so many other aspects which are needed, right? So I believe that, if somebody has to be successful in life, it is not the compartmentalized knowledge, but it is the mix of all the knowledges which is required, right? And IPM was the culmination of that. IPM came out of that particular thought process. So in IPM, what students have to do is, they have to look around their own community and look for a problem, something that is not working. They have to look for a problem, and they have to come up with an innovative product, not an idea, innovative product, real product, to solve that problem. Now, when that thing happens, 2 or 3 things happen. Point number one, teenagers, they blame everything, right from their parents to school to government to society, that there are problems everywhere. But when you do this, the students are now looking for problems, because they think that, they can find a solution to that. They are the problem solvers. They are not the ones who are actually blaming everybody for this problem, but they are simply saying, if there is a problem, let me think about it, let me solve it. So that mindset is very, very healthy, very, very important for children. Point number two, once again, there are so many subjects which will come in this entire project, that, they will do this with, having lot of fun. So point number one is, they are identifying the problem. So critical thinking and observation comes into that. Then they are looking for the solution, the innovative product. So that is where a lot of engineering and product designing will come into the play, right? Because you will have to make that product, not only think about it. And the third aspect of is the marketing plan. So in marketing plan, they will be designing right from newspaper advertisement to radio jingles to television advertisements, websites, social media pages, everything. So I'll just give you one simple example. If they are creating television advertisement, so right from what script to write, who will act in it, what kind of setup that they will have for shooting, the editing part, within that particular time, like, because advertisements cannot be long. So art of storytelling will be, they will simply be mastering. So a lot of things will come in just one aspect. So they're right, they are learning about media, they are learning about language, they are learning about, acting, they are learning about everything.
Comprehensive development.
Absolutely. So when I say holistic development, this is what holistic development looks like. That you are covered, and the best part about it is they are having a lot of fun when they are doing it. Because there will be bloopers, there will be some errors, there will be technical errors. They are learning out of that. Everything happening at the same time. And once they are ready with that, they will be presenting, just like the format of the Shark Tank, they'll be presenting their product in front of the panel of judges.
Wow.
So once again, it's the presentation, the body language, the coordination between the team members. All these things simply come into the picture. So we I think developed almost 300 such innovative products, wherein we are solving all kinds of problems, right from the problems at the global level to national level to very local individual level.
That should send a real inspiration to the teachers and students who are watching this episode to look at from a different perspective rather than just the books. But as you said, this projects implemented affected due to the COVID.
Right.
There is another aspect of COVID which supported online learning, like we said, Byju's, Unacademy, and there are 1,000 others who started in COVID. But yes, seeing a slow decline after we are back to basics.
Right.
How do you think this online learning versus the classroom learning in future?
Okay. Now, see, at any point in time, the human element will always supersede the technology. So if I have a chance to be, teaching you one-on-one, face-to-face, that is always better, because that human element is always better than the technology. But at the same time, so far as the technology is concerned, the benefit of that is now world is your playground. If I want to learn something from the professor of Harvard, I don't have to fly down there and, pay lots of money. You know that very well that, there are webinars which are conducted, free webinars conducted by so many experts. I can simply be part of that and I can learn from that. So I'm definitely in favor of the technology, which is being used in the education, because it is bringing lot of equity. Something that was initially very geographically available or non-available. Because I'm in India, I cannot learn from professor in Harvard. But now with technology, as I said, world is my playground. So the students of today or the teachers will have to see to it that they are adopting these practices. So me being a teacher in Rajkot, I can always run my course and it will be taken by students around the world. Why not? We are always looking at one aspect, that our students taking courses from the other professors around the world. It can be other way around as well, that, me being sitting right here in Rajkot, I can reach out to millions. There is no limitation to that. So technology is giving us those wings. Technology has removed that geographical locational advantage which earlier people were used to have. So anybody with a mobile phone and the internet connection, has the same opportunities that anybody in the world has, irrespective of your caste, creed, your income, your anything, nothing. It's an equalizer. Now all of us are equal. Now what we do with these resources will decide whether I develop or not.
Right.
So it's like, I have seen so many examples where somebody who might be in village, having a very simple smartphone, and that person is doing wonderfully well. They are learning everything, right from technology to language to everything. There are, classes on machine learning and AI.
So accessibility.
Everything. They have access because it's internet and the smartphone. That's all.
So what's your views on AI in education? Do you think it's going to take over the usual learning pattern?
Okay. I think after internet, AI is going to be the major disruptor in the field of education and on other fields as well. For the simple reason, it will simply make us think why we exist, why we as school, why we as educators exist. Right now, if I ask anybody, people will simply say that I am a teacher and my job is to teach this particular content, whatever subject teacher that person may be. Now, if you are that teacher, AI is definitely going to replace you because content now is free, automation is now possible. So, any kind of that part of the teaching will be taken care of by the machine, right? But now we will have to look at the human element of teaching. Now, if we are looking at the human element, building relationships, understanding emotions, is something that AI will not be able to handle this. And that is where the role of teacher now changes from the content provider to the emotions provider. We will have to teach students how to learn and not the subjects, because the other tools and other material will simply take care of that. So AI is going to disrupt education in a big way, big way, with automation and machine learning coming in. And there are tools like when we talk about AI, everybody thinks that it's ChatGPT, and even ChatGPT has become so smart. There are so many things that teachers do or spend such a lot of their time is being spent in those areas. Let's say lesson planning. Lesson planning is now, it can be done in ChatGPT very easily. Little bit of assessment can also be taken care of. Project or report building, even that can be done. Mind map develop, that can be done. Everything that can be done, automate in an automated manner, teacher will become redundant for that. I look at it this way, it creates more time for you to think that what do you need to give to student other than what this machine is giving. Because we are not going to be competing with them. Why should we do it? It is just like calculator. If I had calculator and if this calculator can simply do this math, I don't need to, learn this mental math up to that extent. I can focus on coding. I can focus on other things, right? So same thing with AI tools. It's going to change a lot, but teachers who are prepared for it will be riding the wave. And that's what they say, that AI will not replace the teacher, but AI will definitely replace the teachers who are not ready for it.
Yes.
So you need to embrace that change. If you are doing that, because see, these are the tools given in your hands which are making your work easy, and that is scary. Because all these years we have been teachers and we have done this. We spend 1 week doing lesson plans. We have taken let's say 15 days doing the correction. Now this machine will do everything for you. AI technology will do things for you.
For students also, the difficult part is to differentiate between a piece of information that is useful for them.
Right.
With so many resources available across internet, with online learning platforms like Byju's, YouTube,
Right.
Online courses on LinkedIn, and so many other platforms.
Right.
Even on a social media, there are so many learning pages that the people follow. And everyone has mobile in their hand. So it's very difficult for them to differentiate a piece of information that is very useful for them and crisp.
Absolutely.
How do they filter this?
Simple thing, and that is what as teachers we have to teach them. Because, the problem with this generation is the problem of abundance. They have a lot. Now they will have to pick and choose what is authentic. That is number one, because a lot of fake knowledge is taking rounds as well. The WhatsApp universities and all. So you will have to authenticate, understand the difference between fake news and authenticated news. Point number two, they will have to simply learn from the ones who are actually genuinely doing that. So role of the teacher is just expose them. At the school level, we have to give them only couple of choices and then teach them that what to look for. How do you differentiate between an authentic source and a fake one?
How can they do this?
Right. A simple thing, suppose if there are so many websites where you can simply do the fact check. So anything that is there, they will simply give you the verdict that, it is authentic up to what percentage?
The reviewing websites who review on the companies.
Absolutely. So, similarly, any kind of news item, any kind of knowledge, they will simply do the fact check for you, right? So, kids should be knowing this, that, don't believe everything. And with AI coming in where people can generate, the resources very quickly. So, there will be an exodus of resources on internet. Students should know how to filter it, because there are ways in which you can filter it, right? So I believe, this is what the teachers will have to teach them, that I'm not your geography teacher or commerce teacher or an English teacher, but I'm just giving you the skills as to, how to learn. That is what we have to give it to them, and then, leave it to them. That, they will simply be figuring out things. Simple thing, because the jobs of the future are not, that knowledge is not even available right now. I'll give you a very simple example. Right now, somebody who is the highest paid is the prompt engineer. Now, I think 10 years back, nobody had even thought of prompt engineering. If I'm in the college, nobody told me that, you become the prompt engineer, because that concept was not there. So things are changing, and students, we have to simply teach students how to handle this, because knowledge is going to renew almost every 6 months. How to keep up with that, and how to go for something that is authentic.
Do you discuss this with the world leaders when you travel the world? Because we have seen you traveling across the world with so many leaders discussing education. You have received recognition for so many awards because of this futuristic educating methods. What do you discuss with them?
Okay, now if you look at it, the problems of education are the same everywhere, even though there might be certain regional differences or so. But the problem of education is the same everywhere. All the educationists or the specialists are struggling with the problem as to what next. What should be happening in the schools? That is the question what everybody is, confused with. Because we have, let's say, the students are with us for 8 hours. Now, how do we best utilize these 8 hours? What we should be touching upon, and whether, how much of technology, how much of not technology. These are the questions which everybody is fumbling with. There at one point in time, everybody was using technology. Now, everybody is realizing that too much of technology is not good for children. So too much of screen time has to be avoided. So all these problems which are common across, how teachers have to be taught, in the sense the teacher training part. That is also because if we want to tackle with the AI revolution, teachers have to be taught first. Only then our schools will be able to thrive. So if you look at it, the problems are the same. And that is what is being discussed across, all the leaders, EdTech leaders, political leaders. Everybody is simply coming together and trying to bring the solution during these conferences.
What's the best way that these futuristic educating systems and perspectives can be injected into rural Indian schools? Because they are the farthest from this. They're not even getting the basic education. We are talking about AI.
Right. Okay. Now, see, as I said that, technology is an equalizer. So if the schools if the technology has reached there, now the teacher training is the first thing, which whether it is for NEP or whether it is for technology or for anything, teachers have to be trained first. We can revolutionize the way B.Ed courses are happening, because B.Ed courses are a must. It provides the certification for one to become a teacher, or the TET or NET exams. So that has to change first, because when we will change that, automatically the teachers will start having that mindset which we want students to have. So one of the ways we can do that with rural teachers is have lots of workshop with them. Across the year, we can have the capacity building workshops where the expert is simply teaching these teachers, trying to understand problems that they are facing and solving those problems at the grassroots level. only then things will improve. Otherwise, it is not possible.
We have seen and discussed with you a lot of comprehensive things around the education. What can we expect you doing in the future?
Of course, I will be working on my dream project, my own startup.
Sparkle 24.
Yeah, that is Sparkles 24 Skills Academy. And this is my dream. Everything that we discussed, whether working with students or parents or school administration or teachers, I would love to work with all these four stakeholders of education and, do what I can do, to help.
Is it possible that the educators who are watching this video, the teachers who are watching this video, the schooling regulators who are watching this video can approach you for how to implement these ideas in their schools and teaching centers?
Absolutely. I'm absolutely, I will be more than happy to help them. And not only this ideas, we can always develop, we can have the customized plans, keeping in mind their school or their requirement. Because all schools are not the same, all, school administrators are not the same. So keeping in mind their requirement, the customized plans can be made. And of course, they will see the difference in their students and in their teachers as well.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for being here for the first education podcast of Voices of Impact. I'm pretty sure that a lot of your past students or the ones who are connected with you are going to love this episode. For the ones who doesn't know you, are going to find a lot of value from this episode. Thank you so much for being so real and giving us another dimension of education. And thanks for being on the show, ma'am.
Thank you so much. I really enjoyed this podcast and keep up the good work.
Thank you, ma'am.